That's Bob's house. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine. How are you?
How do you do? How do you do?
How do you do?
That'll be $10, sir.
$10, sir?
$10. That's
Okay.
just a start. My agent's right there.
Let's go
King
talk to him.
Kong is my agent. He
There you go.
can tell you right there. I mean,
That's him right there.
It's the original guy from 1933. This is the puppet. He doesn't have his fur or anything on him anymore. He went to Jenny Craig. He's part of the collection of the old museum here. At least that's what we call it. I've been lucky enough to know so many people that have given me most of these things that are in special effects. Some guys are of course gone now. Jim Cameron's a guy that's of course still around, very heavily around. He gave me a lot of stuff, and other people. Peter Jackson sent me stuff from Lord of the Rings. Paul Blaisdell probably was the most talented guy I've ever known in my life. Paul, I gotta say, came up from nothing. He didn't have any of the modern conveniences or books or, you know, videotapes that they have now of how to do stuff. He had to learn on his own. Roger loved Paul. I mean, there was a piece, I'm trying to think of the special I saw him on, and he gives about a 5-6 minute thing on Paul, saying he's the guy that I called when I knew anybody could make a monster and do it cheaply and do what I wanted exactly. Paul Blaisdell was the man. This is all that's left of Marty the Mutant. This is the chest piece. It was like right in here on the suit. Now this shows you some of the rubber pieces that Paul had crumpled up and pulled off and made little pieces that he glued on here. You can still see that's part of the, well right there is the, you can actually see the seam. That's the underwear, the long underwear right there. And he glued all these pieces on, and then he sprayed with, he worked a lot with colored inks, and so this is brown colored inks, different, you can see different highlights and shadows and stuff. He painted the highlights and shadows on all of his monsters because he knew they were going to light them flat. And so this way he had the shadows already in there, which is kind of a nice idea because they did used to light the stuff flat. But anyway, that's all that's left of Marty. He was just always creative. Something was always going in his head. And he would start whistling. No tune, just whistle. And I got to know that meant the process is going. He's thinking of something. And he'd go around his house, and he'd come back and say, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we put some makeup on and take some gag pictures and stuff? He turned into the monster. That was basically it. When we did the she creature pictures outside on the bridge and stuff, it almost scared me a couple of times because he'd kind of start to lumber after me a little bit, and you get that kind of, wait a minute now, exactly, is he fooling around or what's he doing? Who's that? Well, we were shooting some 3D pictures out on his big 100-foot suspension bridge, and it rolls right to the road. Now, up in Topanga, at least in the 50s, it was really dark. They had no street lights up there at that point. And then you could see a car coming from 20 miles away almost, because you see the light coming. A very twisted road. And Paul suddenly got the idea, hey, the next car that comes, I'm going to run across the street in front of him and hide in there's some bushes on the other side, and just let you see what happens, you know. And so sure enough, we see this headlights coming down. Paul said, okay, so I hid by the fence that we had, the gate thing by the bridge where you couldn't see me, and he waited till the car was maybe 100 feet away, something. It wasn't going that fast, you know, and he goes right across the road, and the old table's dragging along, and he goes into these bushes. Well, the guy goes by by that area about maybe 30 feet, and you hear, just stops dead. And slowly but surely starts backing up. Now, there was nobody else on the road, no other lights anywhere, and he gets just about where the fence is and the gate is, and he's looking over there. I mean, he saw something and it didn't register for a few seconds. I thought he probably go, wait a minute, what was that? And he looked, and so then Paul all of a sudden wiggles the bushes, just makes the bushes really wiggle, and they go what kind of thing. This guy laid rubber all over the street getting out of there. I mean, he took off and he was gone. Those lights disappeared so fast. And then, of course, Paul came back over. We're both laughing like crazy. And we don't know if he just came from a bar or was going to a bar, but I bet he ended up in one again anyway, saying, "You're not going to believe what I just saw." Ray Bradbury was coming down to talk about Moby Dick. We happened to sit next to these young couple sitting by us who happened to be Paul and Jackie. He was just working on The Beast with a Million Eyes, making little Herky, the little puppet. And so we were talking about it, and he said monsters. Oh, I like monsters and all that stuff, you know. And so he invited us up to Topanga.
Yeah, every week we'd get our little Volkswagen and we'd drive that canyon road.
For 5-6 years, yeah. Because they had no freeways then going out there. So it was about an hour and a half to 2 hour drive to get there. He and Jackie were both so smart. I mean, Kathy and Jackie would get into, well, you can tell them how you got into those conversations sometimes about life and every other thing. It was pretty darn interesting.
No, it was the wonderful part of it wasn't talking about, no offense to people who like to shop, but it wasn't about shopping and what's the newest fad and the newest fashion. We'd talk about politics, we'd talk about space, we'd talk about intellectual endeavors. It was wonderful.
Amazing.
And that's why we loved going there so much.
Yeah. It was magic. It was a magic time.
I mean, he has a cult following
He does
that
now.
he'll never know about.
No, I know.
The Japanese have made incredible models of his stuff.
Well, in 1985, which is a couple years after Paul's passing, we were over in Japan, and they found that I had worked with him on some of these films. And one of their favorites is It Conquered the World. There's models, there's pictures, there's drawings,
Toys.
everything of Buell.
Name it.
I mean, that's a big, big thing. A lot of the effects guys that I know.
And a lot of the directors we know.
Yeah.
Frank Darabont,
Joe
John
Dante.
Landis,
Yeah, Joe Dante, all these people,
They're
yeah.
all Blaisdell fans.
Yeah,
all you need
honestly.
to do is go to any of the science fiction conventions, and you'll see, a contingency that
Of Paul stuff. Either
absolutely
model
adore
kits
Paul.
or whatever,
Model
stills,
kits,
whatever. Yeah.
paintings.
The director caught me the night they were going to screen the thing. He said, "Bob, I want to talk to you." He said, "No, I had to cut your stuff on Paul way down." He said, "I didn't want to, but something had to go." And he said, "It's always the special effects guys that have to go."